Welcome back to One on One. We're joined now by Robin Lundberg, host of SI Now for Sports Illustrated weekdays at 10:30 a.m. He's the host of the Robert Lundberg Show every Saturday from 6 to 10 a.m. on CBS Sports Radio. Spent a decade at ESPN Radio. Robin, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I just have to apologies, but make sure the info is correct. I don't do the Saturday morning show anymore because that was my own choice. But Sirius XM Mad Dog Radio I appear on, and SI is I'm senior host at SI. You can catch me on all their social platforms, SI.com, everything else.
All right. Well, I'll start.
You should update my Wikipedia.
We should. You know what? After this show, I'll go and do that. They say don't take information from Wikipedia. That's on me, right? So you spent that decade at ESPN Radio. You kind of came up as a producer before you transitioned to on-air stuff. But when you're producing for guys like Stephen A. and Max Kellerman. So I'm curious when you're behind the board for guys like that, and those are guys that have obviously made a very fruitful living talking about sports. Are you picking up on like techniques and stuff that they do that makes them so good and kind of using that for your own stuff?
Sure. I mean, I think in any walk of life or realm, you want to, through osmosis, pick up the things that are that you can practically use. You need to have your own identity. Now, like Steve and I worked with for sure, and obviously we've all seen what he's become in the business. Kudos to him. Max, I knew very well, right? And Max, I was an intern on Around the Horn when he was the host. And when I was producing his show, I was sort of the on-air sidekick. So that was a different dynamic as well. But sure, yeah. I mean, I think you want to learn from the people that you respect, the people you like, and even some of the people that you're not a huge fan of, but you see have success. Like you have to check your biases. You have to check, your own preferences sometimes to see what works. And you don't want to fake it or front or anything like that. But if there's something that you see, and even though that's not your cup of tea, but you get why an aspect of it works, how do you apply that to yourself?
Yeah, that's great stuff. You've obviously done like a lot of interviews, guys, like even to the likes of Tom Brady, and also like you're a pretty big WWE guy. I heard that Kofi Kingston even let you hold the championship belt, stuff like that. So what's your favorite interview, Ben, that you've done throughout your career?
Yeah, sure. Two of them I would say stand out to me. Obviously from a name standpoint, like when you interview Tom Brady or The Rock, but from like the actual content of it, one of it is Ray Allen, oddly enough, because I had, all that Ray Allen save LeBron talk. I'd always wanted to ask him about that, and I did, and the clip went viral. So, like the fact that was what I wanted to ask him, and then that answer prompted, millions of views or whatever, made that satisfying. The other one was Colby Covington in the midst of like Trump, and he was wearing the MAGA hat. And the fact that like I felt like I had to address that off the top of the interview, and we're in person. So there's just like a certain level of tension that was there. But I think it all came out well and professional. So I would actually say those two, even though they're not the biggest names, just from a personal evaluation standpoint.
I have to ask, you came up with our guy, Ryan Ruocco, coming up with ESPN, obviously Fordham alum, WVV alum. What was it like coming up with Ruocco, and how was it like kind of work with him through those early years?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, that sort of happened organically. Again, I was a producer on that show too. And then we had a little bit of a yin and a yang or I guess it's more like a Venn diagram. There was shared interests, but we were different in certain ways. The right point in his career at that time, before obviously, like, one of the things I always admired about Ryan was like he knew what he wanted to do, like exactly. So whenever we would have talks about that, I would say like go do that specifically because that's what you want to do, and that's in a way that's something I've envied because I've had a successful career, obviously, but I've always been like I'm pretty good at everything, right? Like it sounds wrong, but it's true. But that sometimes like that jack of all trades, master of none can like, do you want to go all in on the on camera stuff? Do you want to go all in on the podcasting or the writing or do you have I have a good role now where I get to utilize all of it. But he knew he wanted to be a play-by-play announcer. So I love the fact that we got to do that show. And, for circumstances beyond our control, that show ended. It wasn't because of our performance. It always did well. So that's one of those what could have been also, but I'm happy for Ryan and his success. And we still, text all the time.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Obviously, like I've seen from your socials and your content, you're big on basketball. We're in the conference finals period. Do you got any bold predictions for the future of the playoffs? What's going
Sure. If you want me to make a bold predict, Miami will win that series. Jimmy Butler, like people just, I think Jimmy Butler is the best player in the world right now. And people just have trouble coming to terms with that. But I think you're going to see now Boston could still easily win that series because they're the more talented team. But you're asking me to make a bold one. That's the easiest bold one for me to make right now.
Yeah, looking at that Heat team, what do you think kind of makes them different from the team we saw in the bubble? Like if you had to look, right, like obviously they end up running into that Lakers team. This year, the way the Western Conference Finals plays out, whether it's Nuggets, whether it's Lakers, like is this a Heat team that can legitimately win the whole thing?
I think anytime you can get there, you can win the whole thing. I mean, I don't think it's that much different than the bubble team, to be honest. I think, some of the personnel is different, but the core pieces are the same. And Eric Spoelstra, probably the best coach in the NBA. I just said what I said about Jimmy Butler. Bam Adebayo is a versatile, player, defensive piece. And they've got guys who know their roles. They know their identity. They're not afraid to take shots. Kyle Lowry stepped up, shown he still has something in the tank. So, I think of the four teams, they are, from a roster standpoint, deservedly the longest odds to win it all. But I doubt them at your own peril at this point.
Yeah, and kind of taking it to the current NBA with the championship prediction and trying to go to the future. What do you think about the Spurs getting the first pick in the draft and the moves that they're going to make? Ideally, Wembanyama, but saw you had some interesting things to say about Scoot Henderson as well.
Well, Scoot, look, dynamic guards are fun to watch, and we'll see where he winds up. There's just been a lot of talk around that third pick in Portland and what they might do because of Dame's situation, obviously. And if let's say Charlotte takes Brandon Miller because they've got LaMelo Ball, maybe they still take Scoot, who knows? But that's where that conversation has really come up because, I have a lot of Nets fans I'm interacting with who are trying to figure out what the team is going to do going forward. Wembanyama, I mean, the good thing for him is there's no he has expectations individually, but the Spurs have no expectations probably for a few years. So that's a good thing for the organization is they can take their time and sort of build organically around him. And, you hope by like year 3 or year 4, you've put the competitive championship level roster there. And in the meantime, fans are going to be patient because as long as he's playing well, fans are going to be patient because they're going to say, we've got this guy. And they want to tune in every game to watch this guy. And they're not expecting you to compete yet. So it's really, in a lot of ways, it's a great place to be.
Kind of staying with keeping away from the playoffs, Ja Morant back in the news for reasons he probably doesn't want to be back in the news for. And, for this Grizzlies team that felt like they dealt with a lot of drama between him and Dylan Brooks. Obviously, Ja Morant's a special talent. And when you have talent, you're going to get second chances. You're probably going to get third and fourth chances. But how did the Grizzlies go about navigating this situation? This is the second time that Ja Morant's had an issue like this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more concerned for Ja Morant, the person now, because that behavior is so self-destructive that, it makes me think something else is going on. Like, it's, I mean, how easy is it to not go on Instagram Live flashing a gun, right? Like, people like to talk about legal, it's just, it's stupid. And he was already in trouble for it. So like he's already in trouble for it, lost out like $40 million perhaps in earnings because of not making an all NBA team. He might lose his Nike deal as a result of it. Like that's behavior so self-destructive. It's concerning. Because like you just shouldn't, anybody with sense wouldn't do that. So it does make me concerned about him, the person. We'll see what the NBA, I mean, the Grizzlies are going to have to be beholden to the NBA. And because he was just, Adam Silver did that whole, like, I was shocked because of that. They're going to come down hard on Ja Morant. So I don't know if the Grizzlies have much choice. It puts the franchise in a bit of a bind because I expect him to be out at least half of next season.
Yeah, Ja being what it is, and that situation is pretty troubling. Do you think that the NBA as a whole, because we've seen like there's been a lot of business decisions, like especially with like the Kyrie news, him getting his Nike deal pulled. Do you think we can see the future of the NBA with a rise in kind of extracurricular behavior that the league doesn't like? Do you think we'll see more severe punishments?
I mean, no, I mean, I don't think the NBA wants to do that. Again, this is a special case too. This is not normal. For behavior like that. And Adam Silver, like the first one is only 8 games, right? Like they didn't come down too harsh. I think the fact that it happened again is and you see that apology thing, the ChatGPT apology, because it's tough to take it seriously when we just went through it, right? So I don't think it's some sort of epidemic. I don't think it's I think it's a Ja Morant situation.
Chaz earlier, he asked you for a hot take, and kind of scrolling through your Twitter, maybe stalking, depends on what word you want to use, but a lot of basketball on there, some baseball, football, and you're a pretty big music fan. You tweet about music, and one tweet said out to me, "You don't hate Ed Sheeran." I want to hear about this.
Well, first of all, I mean, Ed Sheeran is selling out arenas and stadiums, right? Most people don't hate Ed Sheeran.
Right.
That's like a little internet thing. Ed Sheeran has some unbelievably good songs. Like I'll listen to an Ed Sheeran album. I don't usually listen to album front to back, but like off the new one, he's got that record Dusty. I like a lot. There's a song called Fire Love off of one of his records that I think is just great. I think he's sort of objectively talented and has objectively made some great songs. So sometimes the internet likes to run with something, and then you like see people join the group think or they want to be part of the bandwagon or whatnot. And I'm not ashamed. I'll never be ashamed by what I like or what I don't like. And I'm not like an Ed Sheeran stan or anything, but I do think Ed Sheeran is good at his job.
Well, I bring this up because on one of the women's basketball trips, I was looked down upon because my playlist has a little bit of Ed Sheeran. I have the A Team. I love the A Team. And I'm a little hurt by this. I'm not saying I'm not a diehard Ed Sheeran fan, but I make some good music, man. It's unwarranted.
Well, yeah, again, he's also very popular. So that comes with the sometimes when you get to a certain level of popularity, there's a level of backlash also.
Yeah, and I think one final question just to wrap it up, kind of take it full circle. I saw one of your interviews that you used to live with Max Kellerman, and I was just praying on a hope and a prayer that you have any interesting stories from that time in your life.
Yeah, I don't know. Remember saying in an interview, live is a strong word. I moved to the city, right out of school, and I just didn't have a place to live. So I stayed with Max for a few days, living. But I mean, one, I'm not gonna, with anybody. This would go for any friend, any acquaintance. I'm not gonna air out, anything that happened behind the scenes for the public. I think with Max, one of the coolest things you can do is go to Vegas with him because he's a legit celebrity around the boxing world. So when you're out in Vegas, that can be for a cool scene. But yeah, I didn't live with him. I stayed with him for whatever it was, a handful of days, or bounced between a couple places for a few weeks before I got my first apartment.
Well, Robin, thank you so much. I know you're a busy guy. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us today, man.
You got it, guys. Have a good one.
All right. We'll be right back with more one-on-one.